gentlemen, what you gonna do, brother? Oh, yeah! Woo! What? What? If you smell what the rock...
You got the wrong guy. I'm the dude, man.
What's up, everybody? It's Around the Turnbuckle. It's the Big Alboski right here. That is Professor Keith. And joining us live down in South Carolina, live and in color, is Ray Pryme. What's up, Pryme?
What's going on, baby? How you guys doing?
Oh, we are excellent, my friend. We are excellent. We have, Keith, we got a couple announcements before we talk to Pryme about everything that he's got going on down there in South Carolina. A couple big announcements. Number one, there is no Around the Turnbuckle tomorrow in our normal slot. 6 o'clock tomorrow. There is no Around the Turnbuckle. I haven't had a chance to talk to you. Keith was on location last night for Triple WA. Also, these T-shirts, Around the Turnbuckle T-shirts, and mugs and some other merchandise that my wife's going to be cooking up are going to be available at the Legends of Hamburg Professional Wrestling Fan Fest on July 24th. Come see me and Keith. We're going to have a merchandise table available. So a lot of people have been asking me about merchandise. It will be available. Everything that we got will all be available all at the same time at the Legends of Hamburg Professional Wrestling. We will talk about that later. If you want to follow my man down here before we start talking to him on Facebook, follow him on NEW Wrestling. On YouTube, follow him I Am Pryme. I saw some of his matches on there. And follow him on Instagram as I Am Pryme87. Pryme, once upon a time, before you started wrestling, acting, being a father, all the things that you do, you were a fan. When did you first get into professional wrestling?
Oh, man. This is a two-parter question. So the first time I was actually introduced into professional wrestling, I was probably 6. And I was introduced by my 13-year-old cousin. Where like a lot of old school fans probably remember, WCW used to come on like right on Saturday morning, like right around 12 noon. And, you know, I would go over to my grandmother's house. My cousin would be there. He would be watching wrestling literally for about an hour. And then after that, you know, I'm now getting thrown into, you know, full Nelsons, getting slammed. And we were a big Stinger family. So, you know, just a lot of woos and some, you know, a couple of scorpion death blocks. And I normally end up crying for that one. So that was how I originally got introduced to pro wrestling. But I did not become a fan, like a full fan, until probably 1996. It was, you know, obviously I was a kid, but it's just, and I tell everyone this one, it was that moment WCW came to Rock Hill, September 1996, and I remember begging my mom, like, hey, I was like, I need to go watch wrestling. I got to do this. And she was like, well, no. For 3 weeks, that's all she just kept doing. She was like, no, I'm not doing it. You're not going. I don't care. And I was like, no, I need this. You don't understand. We have to go. So lo and behold, she finally broke down and got two tickets. It was just me and her. It wasn't my brother. It wasn't my dad. And it was a Wednesday night. And it was the reason why she said no, because it was school night. So we went there, and that was literally the night I fell in love with professional wrestling. Rey Mysterio, Juventud Guerrero, Psychosis, Alex Wright, just all those guys that weren't really big during that time were super huge to me. And I was just like, I love this. This is it. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
So when you made that decision, when you were like, all right, I want to jump in the ring, where did you train? Who trained you? Tell us about that.
So I was trained by Wild Thing Willie Clay in Sweet Things Sport College. And this was about the fall of 2011, towards the end of one chapter in my life, and really, really adamant about it. I had reached out to him via Concord, North Carolina, and so he was the one that normally kind of broke me in, taught me etiquette, taught me literally everything that I pretty much know today and really build that foundation.
So,
really that win years ago.
So how long did you train before you got into that first match? And tell us that first match you had in front of a crowd. How did you feel? That who did you wrestle?
So that's a great question. I was in training for probably about a year and a half, and that was probably, I want to say, maybe half of my design, half of my trainers design. It's just like, hey, take the time, let them do everything right. As far as for that first match, man, I want to say my very first match was in the Concord Loose Laws against Wildman, and it was nerve-wracking. I don't think I ever felt really that sick, and I've done a lot throughout my entire life. I've had a lot of experiences, but I think kind of being in front of that, and the notion of, oh wow, this is my first step, I'm about to go do something I really like to do. That was where I was just like, oh dude, this is cool. I really like this until like 5 minutes before, and then I kind of had those butterflies kind of turning into the DJs, and it was a fun night. It was a scary night, but it was definitely a fun night.
It gets in your blood, huh?
Yes, actually. I never knew this, but I come from a very long line of entertainers. I'm the first professional wrestler in my family, but on my father's side, I come from a long line of authors, musicians, and actually about 3 or 4 years ago, I found out that my grandfather played at the Apollo.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about NEW and when did you get involved with them and how's that been going, and is this their first live show? And I got the impression that this is their first live show in a while.
Yes. So I first got in contact with NEW, or was first kind of switched on to those guys late 2012, early 2013. And I was switched on by 2 mutual acquaintances. One who is my tag team partner, lifelong friend, literally brother from another mother, and another guy that I've known probably a little longer before then, but we weren't as close. NEW operates out of Wilkesboro, North Carolina. It's a local promotion there that they like to bring professional wrestling to the locals to be able to help. And one of the things that we really kind of pride ourselves on is being a wrestling promotion for the community. So we definitely help out a lot with the community. Definitely stand up.
Can you hear him?
Yeah, since the breakup.
Yeah, man, you're cutting in and out. Yeah. So we only heard half of what you said. We only heard half of what you said.
All right, gotcha. No worries there. To kind of break down what NEW was again, like I said, we kind of work a lot more with the community. But to answer your question, yeah, this is the first show that we're going to be having in about a year and a half.
And that show is Saturday, June 26th in Elkin, right? Is that right?
Yes.
And can you talk about that show? Because pre-show you did mention that they're going to be taking donations. It is a free show, but they're going to be taking donations during that show.
Yes. So from what I understand, the show is to benefit a officer who had fallen there, I believe, in the line of duty. So we'll be raising money for him and his family there. So you can donate there at the show, as well as donate free too. But yes, for those that would like to sit there and attend, it will be a free show to attend. We're only asking for donations to be able to support this officer.
It's a great cause, man. My brother is a police officer, so I can I can relate to that. I had a brother that I lost in 2013 who was also a police officer. So that's a great cause that in NEW. So support your local wrestling. Go see them in Elkin on Saturday, June 26th. It's a free show, but they'll be taking donations for that fallen police officer and his family.
Bring some bucks for that, people.
What was that, Keith? I didn't hear you.
I said, yeah, bring some bucks for that, people. They're letting you in for free.
Yeah, absolutely. So, are you the NEW champion? Am I wrong in saying that? Okay.
Yeah, a lot of gold in my nose.
Yeah, I'm only getting half of his answers, Keith.
Yeah.
Are you hearing that?
I'm probably hearing what you're hearing. I guess he's going through a bad area for the internet.
Yeah, it's like I like hear every like third or fifth word, man.
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah, now we can.
Great. So, yeah, I have to apologize to everyone out there. Probably a little bit bad service area here. With that one. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know how much you guys heard that. I can answer your question. Yeah, I am currently the NEW heavyweight champion. Like I said, current NEW United States champion. I would like to add to my collection the NEW tag team champions as well, if I can do that.
Now, I'm guessing you'll be defending that title at on the 26th.
No one has willingly stepped up to say they want to challenge for the NEW heavyweight championship. So, I mean, as of right now, I'm just gonna show up and entertain a couple of fans. But if somebody's feeling froggy, yeah, we'll definitely put it up.
Awesome. All right, so tell us a little bit about the acting and the modeling. All right, how'd you get involved in that?
That's a very good question, and it was by chance. And literally it was because, and if you probably talk to my wife, and she's probably gonna give me a dirty look whenever she hears this, I get bored very easily as an adult.
Yeah.
Being in pro wrestling, it kind of opened up a lot of things because obviously, you meet so many guys that are in so many different walks of life.
Right.
They come from so many different backgrounds. So I was just like, I want to be a little bit more well-rounded than just someone that body slams guys on Saturday nights and things like that. So I reached out. It was kind of as a dare a little bit. A buddy of mine who was going to school here in the Carolinas was kind of starting his acting and modeling career. So I was just like, that's really, really cool. By this time, I had probably been wrestling for maybe about 4 or 5 years. So I was like, that's really, really cool. And then he just kind of dared me. He goes, hey, you know what? With everything you do, you should get into modeling. And I'm like, I'm a 300-pound guy. I don't really have the body for a model, or the face. Understand? I get kicked in the face on a daily. So he's like, no, you should totally do it. You should totally do it. So about a year later, again, when I said that I get really, really bored,
Right.
I actually sat there and decided to, I was like, you know what, whatever. I auditioned for it and nailed the audition. Was offered a spot in their school, and then after that, I was just like, hey, you know what? I think I'm gonna do this. Started out really, really small. A couple of background, a little bit of background acting, a couple of auditions for a few TV shows.
Right.
The modeling thing, that was, again, just all me because I was super bored. I was like, sure, if I can get an actor, I can do modeling too. Right?
Sure.
So, like, why not get in there and strut my stuff and try not to break the camera as much as possible.
So you got the family, you got everything going on for you. You got the wrestling, you got the acting, so you're basically describing somebody that has a short attention span. Is that true?
Yes. Yes and no. So yes, I do get bored very easily, like I said. But at the same point in time, I like a challenge. That was always one of the things I always liked to do. And kind of growing up, I was that kid, like you could not tell me I couldn't do something. Once someone was just like, hey, you can't do that, I had to prove them wrong. And, growing up and we talked about that night when I really became a wrestling fan. The night I decided, hey, I'm going to be in wrestling. That's all I really heard my entire life. It's like, well, you can't do that. You're not made for it. You're not this. You're not that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get into it. And I'm going to prove that I can be a wrestler. And I think that's what kind of fuels a lot of my decisions. Is like, hey, I want to do this to prove to not only to myself that I can do it, but to anyone out there that says, hey, well, you know what, you really can't do it. Or more importantly, for people that are told that they can't do things themselves, that they can't be in the modeling, that they can't be an actor, that, for whatever case reason, you can't follow your dreams. I push so hard to be like, not only can you follow your dream, but you should always and truly, stick to yourself, do what you know in your heart is something that you need to do. So always follow your dream. It kind of drives my family crazy a little bit because some days I wake up and I'm like, hey, don't do this. And sometimes it's just like, don't you do enough? And I'm like, no.
Never.
Yeah.
Around the turnbuckle, if anything, is about supporting our local independent wrestlers. Mm-hmm. And in the process, we've met wrestlers from all around the country and recently all around the world. To that end, the reason why I bring that up is I want to bring Keith in on this one too, because what you said about pursuing our dream, pursuing what we want to do. This show got Keith and I back into wrestling. I was going to ask you in a few minutes how you felt about the current product. Do you follow it at all? Do you follow AEW, WWE, or anything like that? Because the current product has irritated us enough that during this pandemic, about a year ago, we started the show. And through the process, we've met a lot of people, and we've been invited to things, and we got back into professional wrestling. And now our biggest thrill would be to have somebody on this show. Somebody saw that person on the internet somewhere, on YouTube or somewhere, like chance, and they got into contact with that person, or they got, in your case, you're an actor. So if you got an acting or a phone call or email or something like that, that would be the biggest thrill of our lives. And we've had wrestlers who are like in their young 20s who are just starting out, and if they ever get signed down the road, that's going to be the biggest thrill for us. It's gotten us back into professional wrestling. So our dream is to keep doing this thing and keep giving a platform for people who want to build their brand, get out there.
Right.
Keith, what do you got, bud?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I wanted to ask about is, you're doing acting, you're doing modeling, you're also doing the wrestling. And we always hear wrestlers say wrestlers are not actors, actors are not wrestlers. But being in that unique position that not a lot of guys are, where you have one foot in both worlds, do you see an overlap? I want to say like a benefit. Do you see like, hey, being a wrestler is helping my acting, or being an actor kind of helps my wrestling? Does the modeling factor into that role? I mean, I would think just the modeling would be a comfort in front of people looking at you and evaluating you and all of that. Can you kind of speak to what benefits those outside careers kind of give to your wrestling, especially if anybody's watching that's saying, hey, I'm a wrestler, hey, I'm a decent looking, human being, or I think I've got some acting chops. I mean, would you recommend that path to them if they're thinking about it? Could you kind of illustrate what the benefit might be to them of doing that?
Right. I will probably, I definitely can do that, but I will probably say wrestling gave me more confidence to get into acting and to get into modeling, and probably wrestling has probably made me more comfortable to do those things than the other way around. And I know a lot of people will kind of break into that, and they will learn things from other genres and, just kind of other walks of life and bring it to what their passion was. I honestly feel like being a wrestler and being in front of people and entertaining fans made me more comfortable than myself to say, hey, I'm actually more comfortable with my body, especially, like I said, being a 300-pound guy, not having the classic bodybuilder physique, that I may want in my mind or other people may think. But to be more comfortable in my own skin, to say, hey, I can absolutely rock a photo shoot. Also, with professional wrestling, made me more confident within my public speaking skills, and with my character development to say, hey, I can totally pursue a career in acting, even if it's just a small part. So I honestly have to kind of like reverse that a little bit to where wrestling impacted those and made me more confident to step forward and say, hey, I can do these things. More than kind of pulling from the other two to make wrestling better. If that answers your question, Keith.
No, that does. That's really interesting. That's why I say you're in kind of a unique position. I'm like, I'd like to know more about that because obviously, I've seen guys in WWE and whatnot. They get the opportunity to go from wrestling to acting, but obviously, we can't exactly call them up and ask them that question. So I thought having somebody here that's doing that, that's talking to us, that's willing to talk about it, what an interesting, unique opportunity to kind of probe something there that we don't usually get to talk about. So that did answer my question. That was really fascinating. And I mean, I guess I can see that because wrestling, there is no stunt double. When you have to take a fall, when you have to drop off, you have to do it. Where when you're acting, the insurance and all that, you might be able to sit there and go, well, that's no different than what I did, last Saturday when I wrestled so and so, and they're like, nah, insurance, man, we got to go get the stunt double and have him go do it. So that might be a little easier on your body at least, where you're like, yeah, okay, I'll let somebody else take the hard hit this time. Sure, we'll go with that.
Exactly. I'm going to say, kind of working on a couple of projects and things like that, you don't really want your star to kind of get hurt. That'll slow production down. But in the wrestling world, it was just like, yeah, we got to do it. Like, that's the job, I can definitely see how, being a main star, getting hurt, that'll slow production down really bad.
All right, so you've been wrestling a while now. What is who would you say was your greatest opponent? And when I say greatest, I don't necessarily mean that he was like the best guy you ever wrestled, but you guys seem to have a great chemistry. You put on a great match. The crowd loved it. And then when you got back through that curtain, you're like, man, they got their money's worth.
Oh, man, that's a really, really great question. And I've had so many really good matches. I don't know. I don't know if I've had that match yet.
Oh, really? That's kind of good.
I know a lot of wrestlers kind of go for that one. They're like, hey, this is the match where everything absolutely clicked and everything was in. And I've had some good ones. I'm not going to lie. I've had some very good ones and some that are probably my favorite so far. But I don't think as far as my career is that I've had that absolute, this is the pinnacle match. Like, there's nothing greater going to happen after this match.
All right, so have an honorable mention. Like, what were some of your favorites then?
So, an honorable mention, I'll probably have to say wrestling Man Mountain Link, Rick Link.
Okay.
Probably up there on the top of my list. I'm going to give him a pretty good shout out here. There's a kid that out of Rutherford, North Carolina, that goes by the name Smiley Feelgood. I have to give him the credit. That was probably one of those top tier matches that I haven't had yet. That I'll definitely classify as that. If we have to go through just really causing me to step up in the ring and really bring my A game, I'm going to have to give another shout out to, again, one of my best friends, Xavier Maxim. He was also my tag team partner. But, we have crossed paths in the ring. And every time we do, he forces me to become better. there. So, and that's probably the reason why I haven't had a match yet. Because every time when I think I kind of get to that point, he pulls a little something else out of me. At that point, I'm like, all right, well, cool. Let's just keep going because now there's a new level to unlock. I know it's there. You just showed me, so I got to get to that point.
So that segues to our dream match segment we always do. Everybody that we interview, if you could book yourself against anyone that has ever stepped foot in a wrestling ring, alive or dead or still wrestling today, who would that be and why?
It's between two guys. If I was able to have that one dream match, I would have to say Samoa Joe.
Samoa Joe.
Samoa Joe. That would be, and again, it's because it's almost like a mirror of two styles, two very big, powerful bulls,
right?
But two guys, especially Samoa Joe in his prime, two guys that out of nowhere could pull out amazing acrobatic skills. He was not afraid to sling potatoes, but will also be able to wow you at the same time. So if I was able to have one dream match, it would definitely be Samoa Joe.
Who was the other guy?
Willie Mack. Willie Mack would be again a close second, and a lot for the same reasons. Again, another two big guys, but I think with that one almost a little bit of a clash of style because Willie Mack is very known for a lot of his aerobatics, versus me kind of a little bit more of like a smash mouth just shit to your face. But again, I think that would be another match where a lot of potatoes can kind of get thrown in it a little bit. I think it'll be a lot of fun to sit there and have the different styles just all the way around. Some of the comedy that Willie Mack does, some of the seriousness, and honestly, probably experience to be able to learn something from another guy that's my size. And it's like, hey, we can put on a really good match and be 250, 275, 300, and not have to, not be scared of breaking somebody.
Watching some of your shows or some of your matches earlier today on YouTube, I was thinking about that dream match scenario, and the first name that popped in my head was Samoa Joe. That's funny that you said that. My light bulb went off. I was like, did he read my mind? Like, can you read minds too? Is that another thing you do?
I'm gonna put that subliminally. I'm gonna put that on the checklist here.
Yeah. Unbelievable. All right, so I saw on your Facebook page that you hosted a podcast, or you host a podcast. Is that you still host a podcast, or is that something you used to do?
So that was something that I used to do. I would love to bring that back. Honestly, it was a nice little side project for me. But again, and it was just kind of like with you guys when you said earlier about being able to create a platform for a lot of talent. Again, being in the professional world, you're meeting guys that come from music, and you meet people that come from art and sports, and other sports, football and things like that, and coming from acting. And I was just like, man, there's too much happening on this scene for it to go unnoticed.
Right.
So at the time, I was like, I really wanted to create a platform for a lot of these guys that were just like myself at the time, really just kind of starting out and trying to, submerge themselves into this world and into this industry that's our actual sport, and create that platform for them. I haven't ran an episode in a while. It is something that I've actively discussed with my circle about bringing back. I don't know when, but it would definitely be something. If opportunity comes up again, that would be definitely something I would like to do.
Now, when you did it, was it just audio podcast, or was it a live stream, or how did you do it, and what was it called?
So it was a little bit of both. It was a little audio, a little more like recorded. We didn't do any live stream or anything like this. It was more like recorded, and it was one-on-one with Pryme.
Okay.
So in that way, what I would do is I would just sit down one-on-one with a new talent. I believe like my first episode was with a lovely young lady who's also now a family friend, very close, who was just kind of breaking into modeling herself. At that point in time. So I was just like, hey, I'm kind of breaking into my industry, you're breaking into your industry. This is a way for us to really be able to help each other. And especially if you be able to get yourself out there and add more to add more to your resume of being a model, and especially here from my tiny little sleepy town of Rock Hill, here in South Carolina, there isn't a lot of, I guess you could say, celebrity status people that have been produced here. And I was like, God, this is just a lot. It's a huge pool of people to not be able to say, hey, you got to see what's coming out of this town. So.
Well, it's interesting because from what you just described, if you brought it back, all the facets of you would be a perfect host. You talk to your audience would be a lot more diverse than mine, because our audience is basically local professional wrestling or wrestling fans, family, things like that. People that love wrestling, in other words. You could interview aspiring actors, aspiring musicians, aspiring wrestlers, aspiring podcast, whoever you wanted to get on that platform and help build their brand. That could be all you.
Yeah, and that was the general idea, was to bring all of these people in to be able to get themselves out. Like I said, I think I recorded at first 3 episodes. And again, the first one was with a young lady that was getting into modeling. The second one was someone that, because I don't even think we even talked about this. A lot of people don't know I served in the Army. I'm gonna throw it out there. So, the second one was someone that I had actually deployed with, met overseas, stayed in contact with when we got back, and he actually got into professional bodybuilding.
There you go.
So getting into that, and he was starting his thing. He was doing very good. He won a couple of small competitions. I do think he competed regionally. I don't think he's gone nationally just yet. I do know he was competing in the all natural body physique form, and I was just like, man, that's really, really cool. You have to tell people about this. So again, that was just another platform for us to be like, hey, you got to let people know that you're doing this outside of just regular social media that we all kind of use.
Well, I'll tell you this. If you do get back into the podcasting to give that platform to the models and the actors and the wrestlers out there, let us know, and we'll share it out. We'll support you in any way we can.
I definitely appreciate it. I definitely will.
Because it sounds like you got something there that you were starting to cook, but now to me it's a no-brainer. To me, for somebody who spreads himself out 50 different directions, podcasting is going to be like just a walk in the park for you.
I'm starting to think this most book in the world is stuff Pryme hasn't done.
You're trying to think of what Pryme hasn't done?
That's what I'm saying. Like, the smallest book in the world is either stuff Pryme hasn't done or doesn't have friends that do it.
I'm gonna continue to add on now. So doesn't have friends to do it with will probably be the first book.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna write it. So we're gonna add author to the list of many things to do.
Author, there you go.
There we go.
Well, you're gonna keep in touch with us because Keith over there reads everything. So
I do.
He'll be on that book. Trust me. I wish I could say the same for me, but I what you call culturally illiterate. I just get all it all from Keith. Keith reads the book, and then he tells me everything that was in the book.
You can wait till the DVD comes out of
I'll take that too. I'll take that too.
So I say Keith can read the autobiography, and you can watch the video.
So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years. If I was to be honest with myself, I would like to see myself in a bigger position to be able to make a difference. Obviously, I would love to see myself on a global scale, being able to do what I do and perform on a global stage. But honestly, I would just like to see myself in a position to where I can make a difference, and mostly just make a difference with people that were like me, and they were starting out, and they don't know which way to kind of go. And I was like, well, here, let me show you So let me show you the things that you're not going to learn off the bat, the things that took me years to come in and learn. I think that would be more fulfilling. But yeah, I mean, if I can be on a bigger stage and do that, that would be great.
Awesome. So I asked that question to almost everybody that we interview, and a lot of times those answers are selfish, because part of you has to be selfish to make your, because you always want to improve yourself. However, that answer you just gave didn't have any selfishness in it at all, Keith.
No, I mean that's great that you want to just be out there and your focus is like, hey, how can I help other people? How can I put good energy out there? That's always a good thing. We need more people in the world that think like that.
Plus, all your kids
Yeah.
will be 5 years older.
Yeah, that would be the dream. They go out and they support me in return for me supporting them for so long. That's the benefit. Yeah, no, I'm really glad you say that. I try to be as positive as possible. I try to fill every room that I'm in with that level of positivity. I've been in situations where it hasn't been that positive. Wasn't fun. Reached a couple of low points, and then that, I think, kind of coming out of that, I was just like, I always had the dream of changing the world in a way. So yeah, I definitely want to make sure I fill it with as much positivity as possible.
Speaking of positivity, how do you feel about the current? Do you pay attention to current wrestling mainstream products such as AEW or WWE? Now that, because I know you were kind of brought up on WCW, and it was a big thing down south. Now that WCW is kind of gone, now do you follow WWE? Do you follow AEW?
I follow enough to understand what's current. Obviously, I fill my schedule up with so much stuff. I don't actively really participate in a lot of the open projects that are going on right now with that one. But I try to at least try to be current, at least to the point to be able to make conversation. As far, and I know you wanted to ask this earlier, as far as the current product, I kind of watch a little bit more. I really follow heavily. What is it? Now I can't think of it. MLW.
Yeah,
MLW.
I've just started to get into MLW from the Vice shows.
Yeah. NWA. I enjoyed watching Power when it was on. I really just went through and binge watched that. I kind of stepped back from it, and to answer your question, as far as like the larger promotions, WWE, AEW, you can probably even throw TNA as far as the big three in there. I kind of stepped back a little bit from those, and I'm kind of watching a little bit more of the smaller ones. There, just because, again, you have that array of talent that is unwashed down. They're at their purest form.
They're raw.
Exactly. I think
I often call it the true. That's the true Raw. All right, Monday Night Raw is not Raw. The true Raw is what you just said.
Right. And I've noticed a lot of times, again, for the things that I do watch, it seems too polished at times. Especially WWE, AEW seems way too polished and way too clean and too crisp. And I don't know, that just doesn't seem like wrestling's in the moment. It's raw, and it's adjustable. You can't be too squeaky clean with that one. There has to be some grit. It has to be a little dirt.
Favorite wrestling match you've ever watched in your life?
Are we talking live or in general?
In general.
In general, Rock versus Cena.
Which one?
WrestleMania, Rock versus Cena. Their first one wasn't Once in a Lifetime.
Oh, the Once in a Lifetime. Okay.
Yeah. I think that was probably the most excited I've been, especially being in the industry and things like that. The most excited I've probably been with the product in a long time. A close second will probably have been, well, it's not probably, it's definitely Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. And again, that first WrestleMania 25.
WrestleMania 25, yeah.
Yeah,
Great
that was as
answers.
close to perfection as you get.
Great
Those-
answers.
So I try, guys. I try.
Big Chris fan said Warrior versus Hogan for both titles. That's your answer, Big Chris? Warrior versus Hogan, Mania 6?
Oh man.
Well, I mean, as a spectacle, but that also, I think, in some respects, is where WWE gets that idea of like, oh, there you can just tell them what to do because Pat Patterson booked that almost hold for hold, and then they get the idea of like, oh, kind of like what Hitchcock used to say about actors is like, you're cattle, you just do what I tell you to do, and if you just do everything exactly the way I tell you to do it, it'll be great because I know what I'm doing and you're just here to execute my vision. And it did work. I'm not going to deny that it worked, that it was a great match, and we're still talking about it and we still remember it. But that to me, you cannot.
I don't think it gets
as a formula that can be replicated with every wrestler, with every situation, with every promotion. Because I think Pryme's exactly right. The spontaneity, the ability to go out there and maybe you have a plan, maybe you have an idea of what you're going to do, and you start doing it, and the audience just completely craps on it and isn't into it whatsoever. And then you've got to kind of go like, oh shit, plan A didn't work. I better figure out a plan B real quick. And there's a lot of fun in that, and seeing the gears shift and seeing what you're going to do for plan B.
I don't think that Pryme was wrong, though. I think at Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels was as perfect a match as you can get. These guys were in their prime, no pun intended, and they just went out there and they not only they had every intention to steal the show. I've seen the Undertaker's side of it. I've seen Shawn Michaels' side of it, right, on the biographies and the documentaries and things like that. So you saw how Taker felt about the match going in, and then afterwards, and then how Shawn. You hear him talk on the latest A&E biography where he talks about that match at length. Going into that match, just everything just kind of clicked. It was just as perfect a match as you could possibly think of, and that's why, as to Keith's point, I think it's talked about a lot more than Hogan versus Warrior.
And I can definitely see that because those magical moments when you sit there and have that is, think about watching your favorite actor, and think about how hard a lot of actors and actresses work. They spend their entire life chasing that one good performance, and then out of nowhere, this one movie, probably that they didn't want to do. They probably avoided it like the plague, and the next thing you know, this one movie was the one that everyone remembers throughout their entire life. Wrestling is just the same, and no matter how well we try to pick our spots and try to polish everything over, it's just right down into the root of it. It has to be 100% organic, and that's I think the biggest reasons why those two matches are at the top of my list, because you can see right there that it was way beyond just a regular we know what to do. Like everything there was so organic, and they suck you completely in because you're so far invested with them organically. It's like organically, no matter who won either of those matches, you're like, I have to be a part of this moment.
If you could give advice to that young 20-year-old who's been training maybe about a year or two and he's green behind the gills, what advice would you give that guy just starting out?
Take your time. Take your time. And I know you guys, interview tons of wrestlers, in schools, things like that. I would say to take your time and enjoy it, and not just in wrestling, but throughout life, all in general. I've seen a lot of guys that just came in and they had a couple of training sessions and they feel very, very confident, and then now they're like, hey, I have to, I have to strap a rocket to myself, and I have to go to the moon. It's like, well, enjoy the time in the sky first, before you get there. Enjoy the road time that you have. Enjoy the connections that you can make, because it's really easy to make connections and it's really easy to break them in this business as well. I mean, I think back to one time in a documentary. I think it was one of Triple H's old documentaries. He's like, hey, there's only one spot. So I totally get it. We're all trying to be that guy.
Yeah.
But the adventure is worth just getting to that point and picking up and learning things on the way, and just having those stories, because at the end of it, it's the stories that actually lives forever.
So Big Chris Vant here. He's also lives in South Carolina, by the way. John Cena is coming back to WWE. I did hear that as far as him appearing on when SmackDown starts having live crowds again. I heard him appearing on SmackDown when crowds start happening again for SmackDown and Raw. I heard that. As far as coming back, though, he's probably just coming. If he's coming back, he's probably just coming back to promote something or whatever.
That's what I would think. Because going back to what we talked about earlier, with him being an actor now, and he is an actor now. He is a blockbuster actor like Rock. Like you
Dwayne
talked
Johnson.
about, you get hurt, you screw up a production, you put a lot of money in jeopardy. And I know that was an issue when Rock did wrestle Cena. Is Rock tore his pectoral muscle, and I think he tore a couple of other muscles.
The second Cena match.
Yeah, and there was a real possibility. That was when he was starring in that Hercules movie, and there was a real possibility that production was going to be delayed, that a lot of money was going to have to be forfeited, and there was a lot of talk that at that point, Rock was sat down by his agents and whoever else, kind of his inner circle and whatnot, and was being told you're done wrestling. You can't do the wrestling anymore because you will not be able to get insurance. Nobody will touch you because you're doing this. And you're going to need to decide, is it worth it to continue to make this comeback, or was the point of this comeback to get more for the movies? Because you told us it was to bulk the movies.
Right.
Because he was coming off of all the Disney movies that weren't working so well, and he kind of lost the action star cred. And that's why you don't see Rock wrestle anymore, because he said, okay, yeah, it's the movies, obviously. And I think John Cena, has either had that conversation or is aware of that conversation.
I'm sure.
So I kind of feel like John Cena is, you don't want to ever say, never say never, but I feel like John Cena is probably not coming back to wrestle unless he's got a situation where his schedule makes sense. He doesn't have a big production on the horizon.
Right.
He has the time to do it. And I think that would be a case where it's going to also have to be the perfect storm, the perfect opponent, the perfect situation, the perfect story, because it's probably going to be his last match if he does it. That's probably going to be the one that, for better or for worse, he's going to go out on, because he's just not going to have
What'll be interesting,
the opportunity.
What'll be interesting is if he does wrestle that one last match, who does he pick as an opponent? You know what I mean? And I just hope it's an actual match and not that, circus that was his thing with Bray Wyatt and all. I hope it's an actual match that we all get to enjoy, and whether he wins or loses, we get to say goodbye to him and not get carried out of there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think everybody feels that way.
What's that?
I don't think we'll ever be able to say goodbye to John Cena. I think John Cena is going to go the way of Hulk Hogan.
I meant he can get his, because he's polarizing. There are fans that boo him and cheer him, but I want to see that if he's ever going to wrestle again, I want him to choose his opponent. I want him to choose his opponent. Hopefully he puts a young guy over, let's say, And also on top of all that, at the end of that match, he gets a moment with a crowd there, whether it be a WrestleMania or SummerSlam or whatever, where we get to say thank you, John, or thank you, Cena, and he says, he says goodbye. Not that we're never going to see him again, but that we're never going to see him wrestle again. We'll see. All right, if you want to follow my man here, Pryme, on Facebook, go to NEW Wrestling. On YouTube, go to I Am Pryme. And on Instagram, it's I Am Pryme87. I'm going to take a wild guess based on some of the Facebook posts I saw you post recently that the name Pryme has something to do with Transformers. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Furthest thing, everyone assumes that. And what was really confusing is when I first came out, I had this Transformers shirt. Pryme comes from way early on when I was trying to break into the business. One of the early promoters, when I was like super, super young, still like in my teens, one of the promoters looked at me and just goes, "Dude, one day you're going to be Prime Time."
Nice.
I like the name of that. So I kind of started going by that name, and over the years, it just kind of started to evolve into its own thing, and then now it's Prime.
It's Prime.
Which easily gets associated with Optimus Prime. Sometimes I'm assuming he's a long lost cousin. I should probably hit him up because I think he has more money than I do right now. So.
Yeah, I know. No, man. That's where it came from. That's a great story. That's a great compliment for you to get too early on too.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it definitely helped feed my ego. Yeah, go figure. Humble guy, right? Yeah, no, I totally had an ego. But it was a very kind gesture at the time. There are a lot of days I don't know if I truly live up to the name, and there's a lot of days that I try to. Honestly, like Prime has taken on a persona all of its own. In a couple of years, it will probably be its own full-fledged movement. And if I can, I'm gonna ride this storm all the way down to the end.
So if you are in the North Carolina, South Carolina area and you want to see this guy wrestle, NEW Wrestling will be live Saturday, June 26th. Follow them on Facebook. Follow NEW Wrestling on Facebook. They have not announced the time or anything like that yet. They haven't put too much on there yet about it. They've just made the announcement a few days ago that they're actually going to be live. That is a free show, that they are taking donations for a fallen police officer. Great cause. So NEW Wrestling on Facebook. You want to see this guy wrestle and you're in that area, go check him out. We're going to get you out of here, my man, with one last thing. And that is, if there is anything that you could ask the professor or myself or both, what would that be?
Okay. So if I was, and it'll probably be for both. It would be for both. If there was one thing that you guys were looking to change, the biggest impact you guys were looking to make, and I think you probably touched on this before, but the biggest impact. What would you feel that would be? What would be the biggest impact that you guys would love to make to someone's life?
We've had, and I'll answer, and then Keith will go, but we've had so many different kinds of wrestlers on, right? We've had guys that are just starting out in the business. We've had guys that have been around a while. We've even had Rudy Boy Gonzalez from down in Texas, who has trained with and wrestled guys like Shawn Michaels and Daniel Bryan. We've had our biggest guest to date was Stevie Ray from Harlem Heat, which was amazing. If you haven't seen that, you can go on our YouTube channel and check that out, because that was an absolute thrill for both of us to interview Stevie Ray from Harlem Heat. When we first started this whole thing, we didn't think we'd have anybody with that much notoriety, but it was great to talk to him. My point is, to answer your question, is if we can connect people, if we can have bookers on and wrestlers on and promoters on and legends on, and build this platform bigger and bigger and bigger so that people come to us and want to help them get their name out there. That's the big dream for me. And like I said, this is my answer. This isn't particularly Keith's. And it would be the ultimate dream if somebody that we had on our show gets signed by AEW, Ring of Honor, WWE, NXT, whatever, and partially we were a small part of that. That would be the ultimate high for me. Keith?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same. I think it's so great that we've been able to, in a year, be able to talk to all these different people to start making these connections. I mean, we had a show where a couple of guys from Germany that came on and interviewed with us. Yeah, Switzerland. And they're talking about getting their passports, coming over to America. There is a trainer we know out in Pennsylvania that, they traded information. He's going to see about bringing them in. So, I mean, even if it just goes as far as we got, two guys that wanted to wrestle in the States. If we help them do that, I mean, that's awesome. That's putting good energy out there. That's helping people out. And that's what I would love to do. I would love to be able to get this to where, it's something of a hub where people can kind of get together and be able to say, okay, I did the show and I see this other guy that was on the show, and they get together and they get something going and they can put a show on. That's great. I would love to give something back to wrestling because wrestling's given me so much.
Yeah, I've been a fan of it for 40 years. Since I was 5 years old, I'm 45. So if I can do anything to be part of or give back to this business that has entertained me for over 40 years, that would be it for me. Great question. Excellent question. See, you're a podcaster. You have a podcaster in there somewhere under the actor and the model and the wrestler and the dad. Underneath all that guy there's a podcaster in there, Keith. I can see it.
Yeah.
That being said, man, we're gonna let you out of here with thank you so much for coming on, telling your story, giving some advice to other wrestlers. We wish you nothing but the best in whatever you do, because I have a feeling that whatever you put any kind of effort in, you're going to succeed at everything that you do. So we wish you the best. If there's any way we can help you, let us know. If there's anybody that that would like to come on this platform and tell their story, send them our way as well. And I hope you had a good time.
Oh man, I had a blast. It was fun sitting down chatting with you guys. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me. Mm-hmm. And my crazy family. I know one of my youngest ones. They love the wrestling business. They don't love the work that goes into it so much. They just love it. But no, I had a complete blast. Thank you guys for having me on today. This was a great experience. I enjoyed every bit of it.
Awesome, that makes us feel good. Do the kids want to say goodbye?
I don't know. Kids, you want to say goodbye to the world?
Goodbye. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks a lot, man. Keep in touch, all right?
Thank you.
There he goes, Pryme. All right, Keith. Couple last minute things I'm gonna do here, and that is, if you don't know already, we mentioned it at the beginning of the show. There is no Around the Turnbuckle tomorrow at 6:00. Me and Keith are taking a day off. I'm taking a day off. If he wants to do a show, that's up to you, my brother. You can have at it. But I got a lot going on tomorrow, and I just don't think I'm gonna make it for 6:00. That being said, we cannot wait to go to the Legends of Hamburg Professional Wrestling Fan Fest at the bottom of your screen. If you have not yet, get your tickets. They are going fast. www.legendsofhamburg.com. Get tickets. You can purchase tickets to get into the event, general admission. It's like $15, I believe. For $20, you get the event, plus you get the Outbreak Wrestling event after the Fan Fest. So that's a bargain there. You're getting a wrestling ticket for $5, right?
Mhm.
Also, you'll get to go into the field house. You'll get to see Keith and I there. We will be there. We will have a merchandise table. We will be doing on-the-spot interviews. We'll be happy to have you come talk to us. You can come talk to us. We can have you. We can interview you. If you're just a fan of wrestling and you love wrestling, come. If you're in the Hamburg, Pennsylvania area, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey area, come on down to Hamburg on July 24th. Get your tickets at www.legendsofhamburg.com. Keith, they just added Larry Sabisco. Our boy, Mark Mess, always does they just added Larry Zabisco, and the legends keep growing. Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, Tito Santana, guys from ECW, Too Cold Scorpio, Sandman, Todd Gordon, Missy Hyatt, Rockin' Robin.
Mhm.
And it just keeps growing. Like I said, they just added Larry Zabisco, Tony Garea, Dangerous Danny Davis, Brooklyn Brawler. It just goes on and on and on. If you want the full list, go to legendsofhamburg.com, and you'll get the full list of who's going to be there. They're having special events, the Outbreak Wrestling afterwards. It's from 10 a.m. to 4 at the Hamburg Fieldhouse. Get your tickets, and Keith and I will be there, and we are more than thrilled to be there.
Yes, indeed. While we're talking about that, I don't mean to bring the room down, but we did have last week, while we were off, shockingly, New Jack passed away.
Yes, who was going to be there?
Who was going to be there? I wrote a little something on the Around the Turnbuckle Facebook group about it. Jack, very controversial, to say the least. But a guy that blazed a trail, for better or worse. He did it his way. And definitely for better or for worse. Definitely worse if you're Vic Grimes. Or that guy he stabbed, and he was, very adamant about that. He stabbed him 9 times, not 14 times, 9 times. It's on the tape. Watch the tape. But a guy that didn't go to WWE, by choice, I think, to some degree. A fantastic promo, the kind of charisma you just can't teach. A guy that, if you ever watch Beyond the Map, sat in legitimate casting meetings, and they said he can't be Denzel. He could be Denzel's best friend. And I heard someone describe, I think it was Dave Scher, where, he could be Denzel's best friend who beats him up, steals his car, and just takes over his life.
Yeah, and they
could
did
probably do it convincingly.
And Vice did it. Vice did a dark side about him.
Yep,
and just based.
recommend it.
And I mean, dark side tales are usually full of bad things and dread. But the thing is, they did a thing on New Jack because, his life was crazy. I mean, the man was crazy. The things he put his body through. And then he openly talked about his cocaine abuse on that documentary and things like that. But I mean, geez, any match that I saw with New Jack in it, to me, there was always at least one, but probably more than one. Oh my God, moments. I think he's the reason why Styles, what's his name, the announcer for EC,
Joey Styles.
Joey Styles. I think he's the reason why Joey Styles started saying, "Oh my God." He's an ECW original. If you haven't seen what Paul Heyman said about him, go on WWE.com on the Talking Smack, or on the WWE app, or on the network. Go on Talking Smack. Or Peacock now. Sorry, there is no network. Peacock. And if you see
in the United States, there is, and everywhere else it still exists.
WWE allowed Paul to openly talk about New Jack, Jerome, the person, and say goodbye to him in Paul Heyman's way. And it was really touching. Paul had to hold back some tears, obviously. Being an ECW regional, obviously he was close to him. So, yeah, rest in peace. Our prayers go to the family of New Jack. Gone way too soon, but man, what a
And I think
ride.
that's what makes me saddest of all is that, Jack had gotten married, had kind of gotten peace, had settled down. They were just weeks away from opening up a merchandise store.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not going to happen now.
And he was coming to.
Maybe,
We had a chance to meet him, right? He was coming.
yeah, and I mean, I do recommend that if you want to, if you have the ability to, I put a couple of GoFundMe campaigns up in the Around the Turnbuckle group. Please click those links, buy the shirt, or just offer a direct donation. Because again, the guy was a trailblazer. If you know anything about ECW, you know nobody got rich coming out of ECW. Jack never worked for WCW or WWE. This was not a rich man. This was not a rich family. I think it's a great opportunity for fans to kind of be able to dig in their pocket. And, one more time, if New Jack ever entertained you, you should maybe figure out how much that entertainment was worth to you and now pay that forward and give that to his family.
Well, yeah, he was going to be signing autographs at this Legend of Hamburg Professional Wrestling. So obviously people were anxious to meet him. If they hadn't already, anybody who knew him, they were anxious to meet him and some of the other ECW originals that are going to be there, Too Cold Scorpio, Sandman, etc. So, yeah, rest in peace, New Jack. What a ride. What a ride, like you said, Trailblazer. Thank you for bringing that up. Because we had been off last week when it happened, and it kind of slipped my mind because we've been, the wrestling business have been losing guys left and right over the past like 3 or 4 years, and so we tried to pay our respects to all those who passed away, and New Jack, last week, gone far too soon. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Again, one last time, guys, there is no Around the Turnbuckle tomorrow at 6 o'clock. The professor and I will be back next Saturday at 6 o'clock at our normal time slot. And I'll be back on Tuesday for Home Team Sports. Also, check us out on 2M1L Media. Check out all our old, the aforementioned, we mentioned our interviews with Rudy Boy Gonzalez, with Stevie Ray from Harlem Heat. If you haven't seen those, check us out. Go to 2M1L Media, subscribe today, and you will see all our old episodes. You will see all our new episodes. You'll see Spitting with Spitters and all his interviews. You'll see all our Home Team Sports where we sit around and we talk sports. Thank you, Chris Vant, for chiming in tonight. Thank you, Pryme, for being our guest tonight. And we will see all of you guys next Saturday on Around the Turnbuckle.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you gonna do, brother? Oh, yeah! Woo! What? If you smell what the rock